Okay, let's begin. So welcome to today's weekly live show. It is a pleasure to be here with you as always. Today we are looking at how to design a beginner's yoga course. Now, this is a follow-on from a free training we did a couple of weeks ago, where I shared with you my top 10 tips for brand new yoga teachers. So if you haven't watched that one, go and watch the replay. You can find it on YouTube, or you can find it in the featured section of the Yoga Teacher Collaborative Facebook page. But when I said about top tips for top tips for getting started as a new yoga teacher, one of my first ones was to establish yourself with a beginner's course. Now, I shared this tip predominantly for two reasons. Firstly, as a new yoga teacher setting up classes, or as an experienced teacher looking to add another class to your timetable, it is highly likely that you are predominantly going to attract new students that are also new to yoga. Because if they're not new to yoga, they already have a practice or they already have a teacher they are going to. You'll pick up a few, maybe people move to the area or their teachers stopped teaching or their schedules changed. But predominantly, if you're establishing a new class, you will establish beginners. You'll get beginners or people that have done a little bit or they've done it a while ago and they're coming back to the practice. But really, people identify with being a beginner in the yoga journey. So this is why I recommend starting with a beginner's course. So before we go into some specifics on beginner's courses, I wanted to look at what it means to be a beginner, because you don't have to get started with just a straight beginner's yoga course. You absolutely can, and I highly recommend that. But equally, you might get started with a introductory to chair yoga course or a yoga for stress relief and anxiety course, any kind of course that you can get started with. But when you're thinking about a beginner, I want you to stop thinking that that is a reflection of their physical capability, because it's not. Someone I was mentoring who has recently trained as a Scaravelli yoga teacher, was initially questioning whether a beginner's yoga course was relevant for them, because Scaravelli is a very accessible on the physical side of yoga. It's quite gentle, it's quite accessible for all. That is a key aspect of Scaravelli. You might even say the same with a chair yoga course. What is the point of doing a beginner's chair yoga course when the idea of chair yoga is that it is very accessible and that it is personalized to the needs of every student? So if you teach a class that is accessible for all levels, why would you need to do beginners? Because a beginner is not about physical ability. You will get some beginners who have maybe got a background in a martial arts and they take to the yoga so easily. Or maybe they were a dancer and they have great body awareness and the movements come easily. Or maybe they're naturally strong and naturally flexible, or they already have a very developed meditation practice. So being a beginner is not a reflection of your physical capability or limitations. Being a beginner is your familiarity with the subject material. And that's the most important thing to remember. It is the familiarity with the subject material. So, if you're coming to a class and the class is, okay, today we're going to begin with the full yogic breath. Inhaling. Allow your breath to have that audible quality, the Ujjayi breath. A beginner is going to feel a little lost and daunted in that, because you're using terminology that they don't know what it means. They're fully capable of doing that. They're not familiar with the terminology. And familiarity is really important, because a basic human need is we don't want to feel like a fool. We don't want to feel out of our depth. We don't want to feel like we don't belong. We don't want to feel like we're the only person in the room that doesn't understand, that can't follow, that can't keep up. And those are some of the real things that damage people's self-confidence and tap into wounds from childhood oh, I can't keep up, oh, I'm confused, or I'm the only person struggling in the room. So, we want to be really, really sensitive to what it feels like to be new to a subject material, to not wanting to feel like an idiot, feel outside of our depth, feel like this isn't for us. So it doesn't matter what style of yoga you teach or you want to teach, think of beginners as a familiarity with the practice. Okay. So next up, before we dive into my personal tips, I'm always a bit reticent to share really specific tips of exactly what I do. I will, and the reason I'm reticent to that is because there isn't one way of doing things. And the beauty of being a yoga teacher is that you get to share your uniqueness. You get to share the aspects of yoga that have been most beneficial to you, that you are most passionate about. So the structure of my beginners courses might not be right for you because you have your own unique light, what's important to you. So what I want you to do when you first think about designing a course, let's just say that, any kind of course, is to think, what are you most passionate about sharing with these beginners or with these people that are new to your subject material? So, whether you are teaching a meditation and philosophy course, a yoga for stress relief and anxiety, a vinyasa course, a chair course, a hatha yoga course, Scaravelli, what is it most important to you that these new people who haven't yet experienced this subject material learn? So start with that. If it is important to you that a beginner learns how to sit for a 20-minute meditation, you can absolutely build a 6-week beginners yoga course that is journeying someone to that end goal of being able to sit for 20 minutes of meditation. If that isn't important to you, and that maybe yoga has really helped you on a physical level. Maybe you started yoga with aches, pains, back pain, and you want to share a very physical asana-based course that is helping people to feel comfortable in their body, to feel stronger and more flexible and more able in their body. And it's not important to you that there's meditation. Don't worry about that. Focus on a real physical. Week 1, improving flexibility. Week 1, connecting with, week 2, connecting with strength. So there is no rules on what your course should contain. So you have to start by looking to you. What is it that you most want to share? What skills do you want to impart with these people that are new to your subject material? And then ask yourself the follow-up question, how can I honestly deliver this? And this comes into working out the duration and the content of your course. It's very easy to be pulled into making decisions from a place of fear. People are really struggling financially right now, and I really want to do a 12-week beginners course because that is the time I think it needs to get someone to experience what I experienced. But 12 weeks is going to be expensive and I'm nervous no one will sign up for that. So I'm just going to do a 3-week course because then I can keep it really cheap and really affordable. That is not the place we make decisions from. We don't make them from fear of what if nobody signs up. We make decisions from a place of authenticity and integrity to what it is we are telling people we will deliver. So not a beginner's example, but I've got a new course starting in September, and it is a 12-month course in tantric emotional alchemy. Now, I guess I could have made that a 6-week course and it would have been a fraction of the price. I couldn't have delivered the results of emotional alchemy in 6 weeks. It is going to take a year. So when you think, what is it that I want to impart the skills in this course, how long is it going to really take to get that results? So if you're wanting to develop people into a fully rounded yoga practice where they feel confident in basic asana, pranayama, and they could sit for 20 minutes of meditation and understand a little of the yoga philosophy, how long is it going to take you to deliver that? Probably 12 weeks. Whereas if you're like, no, I just want to open the door for people who are intimidated by yoga, that think it's not for them. I just want to open that door a little crack, let them feel excited and safe to have a taster of yoga to just start their journey. So I'm going to do a 90-minute beginners workshop, or I'm going to do a 3-week course or a 4-week course. None of these options are better or worse than the other, but it's about you really thinking, what do I want to deliver? What is important to me? How can I deliver this? And how long should that last? So now I will give you a few bespoke points, staying within that framework of what I do is not the only way to do it. Okay, so duration, let's start there. I have offered beginners courses. I'm a bit behind this morning. I have run beginners courses, beginners workshops for 90 minutes. I have run 3-week beginner courses. I've run 4-week beginner courses, 6-week, 8 weeks, and 12 weeks. All of them have different results, and all of those were chosen on the outcome I wanted. 90-minute beginners workshops work really well. They've always sold out really easy. So they're a quick injection of cash for you. Let's get a calculator up. Say, classes are quieter in summer. You want a little quick workshop that's easy to sell. 90-minute beginners workshop, £15. I'm in the south of England. Yoga's not that expensive down here. If you're London, Brighton, somewhere more expensive. My internet just dropped down. Oh no, I think it's okay. Okay. So if you're somewhere a little bit more expensive, it might be more than that. But £15, let's say there's 15 people in the room. So £15 times 15 people, that's £225. Knock off the £25 for full hire. That's £200 for running a beginner's workshop. Okay. What I have found from beginners workshops is they're easy to sell, but I don't often then see those people translate to coming into a class. So they're a quick way of making a little bit of money. If you're wanting to attract new people to classes, maybe 1 or 2 of those people that come to your workshop will then start coming regularly to your class. And that's even with good follow-up, like offering them a free taster of a class after the workshop. So that's why I don't do that many beginners workshops anymore. 3 weeks is really good. If you are short of time, you're coming close to school holidays, a bank holiday, you just want to get started. 3 weeks is what I think it takes for someone to have had a fair stab at yoga. The first week, they feel nervous, confused. Second week, okay, yeah, I'm repeating some postures. I'm getting the feel of this. Something magical happens in week 3. There's a little bit of familiarity with the postures. They can relax into their environment and connect with their breath. So I think really 3 weeks is the minimum for someone to go, I think I might like yoga. 4 weeks, again, very similar. 6 weeks is a nice affordable length of time. So let's again say your classes are usually £10 for a 6-week course. That's going to be £60. I always increase that slightly because there's more content in a course. So let's say that's like £68 for a 6-week course. That's still quite a lot of commitment, but it feels fair. And then when you run a 6-week course, it doesn't seem to me quite enough time to get people really hooked into the practice. So if you run a beginner's 6-week course, I recommend following that up with a beginner's part 2 course, where you're taking those same people into another 6 weeks. And then at the end of the beginners part 2, they've done 12 weeks of yoga. It's really a much more active part of their life then. By the time you've done something for 12 weeks, you've given it some commitment, they're then much more likely to come into your other classes. And at the end of the beginners part 2, if enough people want to continue, you could turn that class into now an open class for those people, and other people can join ad hoc, and you could move on and start with another beginners course in another venue. You can definitely do longer. I have done a 12-week, Lawrence just said 8 weeks makes a habit. Yep, exactly. 8 weeks is quite pricey, I guess, to start with. You know, you're starting to get nearer £100 for 8 weeks, which is why, yeah, 6 weeks, part 1, and then part 2 is quite nice. 8 weeks if you think your area will do it. I have also run a 12-week beginners course, and I loved it. Now, this is for those of you that want to take people on a deeper journey straight away. That's why you're telling them to commit for 12 weeks. In my 12-week beginners course, we based it on the Yama and Niyama. So the 5 Yama, 5 Niyama. And then we had a kind of just introductory week at the beginning and a wrap-up week at the end. That made the 12 weeks. The course, so immediately it was a beginner's deep dive course. So it came straight away with philosophy, and it came with a book. It came with Jenny Lee's True Yoga, and we read a chapter of the book each week in preparation for the next week of the course. 12 weeks, it was £220 because it included the book, and that course sold out to the same number as my 3-week, 4-week, 8-week courses. It sold out. But it's about what do you want to offer. So think about that for your duration. A balance of what are you promising? How long is it going to take for someone to experience that? So if, for instance, it's a beginners, yoga for anxiety, great for beginners course, you're not going to make a big change in 3 weeks. It's going to need to be longer, 6 weeks minimum. Okay, so what is it you want to deliver? What are the results your students want to get? And how long does the duration of the course need to be for that? Starting from a 90-minute workshop all the way up to like a 6-week beginners part 1, beginners part 2, or a straight out 12-week course from the gate. Okay. And then length of sessions. Are they an hour? Are they an hour and 15 minutes? 90 minutes for a weekly work class, I think, is too long for beginners, unless it's, like a deep rest course, so beginners rest course. But how long do you need to deliver the type of class you want? If it's going to include a lot of meditation, pranayama, it's going to probably need to be a 75-minute class. So start to think about that. And then see how does that tie with the price. If you are a little bit scared of the price, if you're like, okay, I want to do 12 weeks. It's an hour and 15-minute session. So that's going to be like £15 for 12 weeks. That's like £180. If you feel a little bit intimidated by that, sit down and work out what are the results someone can expect from that course. If at the end of 12 weeks, they are going to learn a simple yoga practice that they can do every morning to keep their body fit and able for life. If they are going to have a well-established meditation practice so that they can access their true potential. Are they going to have experienced a full toolkit to deal with anxiety and panic attacks? What are the life-changing results of taking this course with you? And is that worth £180? Hell yes. Okay. So stop thinking about, oh, it's just an hour, it's 6 weeks long. Start thinking about what skills is someone going to have by the end of the course? What changes will that make in their life? And is that worth the price? And you'll see easily that it is. Then don't get scared. Don't get scared. Okay? It's so easy to talk ourselves out of fair pricing because we get scared. If you can communicate clearly enough the value of what you are offering, someone will invest the fair amount of money for that. Okay. So then moving on more generically to how I plan. Liz has just put, could you combine an intro 90 minutes followed by a weekly practice class to establish the practices? Oh my God, Liz, that sounds amazing. And this is what I was saying at the beginning. You can do anything. You can do anything. If that creative spark is coming from you wanting to deliver real results of people new to your subject material, you have such a range. And you can do anything. Look inside for that creativity. So yes, Liz, thank you for asking that. Okay, so let's look at some more specifics on how I actually structure a fairly generic Hatha Yoga, Vinyasa Yoga course. This will be applicable to some of you, won't be applicable to others. So Hatha Yoga, Vinyasa Yoga, people will come to it expecting to move. We know yoga is not an exercise practice, but we have to greet people where their expectations is. So people will come to a Hatha Vinyasa course with an expectation to move, with an expectation to physically feel their body, and they're going to have an expectation for some progress. Okay. Again, we know it's not about progress, but that is their expectation, and you want to meet people's expectation. So your very first week of a beginner's course, don't make it too easy. Okay? The more easy, gentle yoga practices, in my opinion, are actually a little bit more advanced because people live busy lives. They're used to being busy. They're used to doing things. If you suddenly ask somebody to do nothing, to take it really easy and rest, they might find that hard. There might be some resistance. So maybe that's actually a goal towards the end of your class. Maybe you finish with a restorative yoga class at the end of a 6-week course. And that's the goal, to get people to experience actually doing less. So meet them where they are. There is an expectation to move. Now, we think that lying down yoga poses are quite easy, quite accessible, but for a beginner, as soon as they lie down, they can't see you. So once they lie down and can't see you, there's, I can't see, am I doing it right? There's a little bit of stress. So I tend to start my beginners classes seated, but not for long. Or if it's going to be for long, seated on a chair. You know, even if it's a Hatha Vinyasa class, doesn't mean you can't have a chair the first week of the practice, or sat with blocks on the floor. But don't have them seated for more than about 7 minutes. So that might mean actually at the beginning of the class, when everyone's arriving, you're having conversations about your aches, pains, and injuries. Thank you for coming here. Maybe you keep everybody standing. Because I notice people arrive, 10 minutes early for class. They've sat on the floor because that's what we do in a yoga class. And then we go and sit for 10 minutes. Now that beginner's been sat on the floor for 20 minutes and they're probably in a bit of pain and discomfort. Or if they did come in and sit down, get them up, get them standing, get them shake their arms and legs out, and then sit down to begin. So really keep an eye about how long someone has been seated from the time they walked through the door to you're getting them off being seated, because that's hard for a beginner. Okay, so starting seated, but not for long. Beginners, week 1, I will start with the breath, just teaching a diaphragmatic belly breath. It'll just be the very first thing we do, diaphragmatic belly breath. Bring the hands on the belly, bring the awareness to the breath, see if you can feel the rise and fall of your breath in your belly. But then after that, I just remind them at certain points in the class, okay, bring your awareness back to your breath. How does your breathing feel? I won't cue breath and movement together in the first class. That will come later in the course. So just diaphragmatic belly breath to begin with, then forget connecting breath with movement for the first week, but occasionally a reminder to breathe. Get really simple movements they're familiar with, a simple shoulder roll, a simple head stretch, just something that's familiar to begin with, but no more than about 5 to 7 minutes sat on their bum in week 1. Then straight over to all fours, cat, cow, down facing dog, and break these poses down. So have a few key poses like downward facing dog, warrior 2 maybe, and actually get the class to stop, to watch you do it. Then they do it, then you do it together, workshop just maybe 2 or 3 poses, and then let all of the other poses be something fairly easy, not much flow. So kind of all fours, cat, cow, extended tabletop, break down, downward facing dog, then do downward facing dog together. Don't worry about chaturanga, plank, or lowering to the ground. Just say, come along your belly. And then you've got your sphinx, cobra. Then it'd be coming to standing, teaching Tadasana, Utkatasana, and then the quintessential yoga poses that they've probably seen are great in your first week. Tree, warrior 2, downward facing dog, cat, cat. And repeat poses. It's really okay to do that. So say near the beginning of the class, you've been seated, you've come to all fours, you've done sphinx, cobra, you've come up to standing, do a tree pose straight out the gate after standing. Then maybe a warrior 2, a goddess squat. Squats again, a very familiar movement. Then come back and do tree again. Use repetition. Then repeat warrior 2 again. Come back and do tree again. I use this technique in my classes all the time, not just beginners. We had a balance sequence this week that was a one-legged Tadasana, extending the leg in front, one-legged warrior 3 on both sides. And we did that 3 times throughout the practice, because when someone comes back to something and repeats it, they can experience it more fully. I know what this is. Okay, I'm going to try again. Okay, I'm going to try again. So take 3 quintessential poses, dog, tree, warrior 2, and repeat each of them 2 to 3 times in the first class. Then a couple more seated poses, a little bit of lying down, maybe a meditation, good long shavasana. Hannah, sure thing, this gets recorded, honey. Okay. Then week 2. Week 2, you want to repeat the quintessential poses from week 1. You must repeat. Repetition is the key to learning, and then add on. So if week 1, you did Virabhadrasana 2, warrior 2, and Trikonasana, you're going to do warrior 2 and Trikonasana again, but maybe now add side angle, Parsvakonasana. If you did the goddess squat in week 1, do goddess squat again, and then add on standing wide-legged forward fold, Padottanasana. So week 2, repeat and add on. Week 3 is normally the week I'll add a sun salutation. And in week 1 and 2, I'll have made sure that I have taught all the components of a sun salutation. So in week 1, we'd have done downward facing dog. We'd have just belly flopped to the floor and done cobra. We'd have also done Uttanasana, standing forward fold, probably Ardha Uttanasana, the half lift, and Tadasana. Week 2, we'd be repeating those postures, but I'd probably add lowering to the ground and kneeling Chaturanga Dandasana. And might sneak in dog hopping to the top of the mat, stepping or hopping. This is vinyasa, of course. So then by the time you get to week 3, it's a little bit of a feeling of accomplishment. They've taken all of those components. You're right. Over the last 2 weeks, I have taught you these key components of Surya Namaskar, sun salutation. This week, we're going to put it together and you will demo it. And then the first time I teach someone a sun salutation, we do each component 3 times. So inhale, reach the arms up and out. lower them down, up and out. We'll do that 3 times. Folding forwards, rising up 3 times. Uttanasana to half lift 3 times. Back to dog just once, but chaturanga, half kneeling, half chaturanga to the floor. We'll do that 3 times, like 3 little push-ups, 3 little lifts into cobra, back to dog, forwards to the top of your mat. And then I'll demo again. Okay, look, see what this looks like when I just run it all the way through. And to a beginner, it'll look really impressive. Surya Namaskar looks a really fluid, amazing movement. But you've taught them all the components. You've got them to do each bit 3 times. And now you put it all together. And the sense of accomplishment is so fun. They come to the end and they feel like they did yoga. It's a real high in week 3. Still, predominantly for me, week 3 is just reminders to breathe. Then week 4, okay, you know we did the sun salutations last week. We're going to revisit them again because you always want to repeat the following week. And this time we're going to work on connecting those movements with your breath. Okay? So you're always repeating and adding a bit on, repeating and adding a bit on. So that's got you to week 4. Week 5 could be a little bit more playful. Okay, so we're going to do a few things that you might find hard today, but actually it's about keeping an evenness of mind. It's a character building. It's not getting stressed, you know, layering in some philosophy. Week 6, if this is a 6-week course, treat them to something special. Now, that might be a restorative yoga class. That might be actually something really playful with crow, etc., if that's the kind of thing you teach. Or if it's more meditation, it might be that they get a yoga nidra. It might be that they do a chocolate meditation. Make week 6 something fun and a little bit celebratory and different. So the next thing I want you to know about designing a beginner's course is something needs to make it different from just a class. And for me, this is the follow-up information. So each week would have a slight theme. So for instance, I said week 3 would be the sun salutations. So on a beginner's course, I send them an email every single week of the course, 24 hours before, saying, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. This week's theme is sun salutations. Please see attached. And then it'd be a short document or video or article sharing about the subject material you're going to teach. Okay. So this week we're going to be looking at sun salutations, Surya Namaskar. Here's a little article on the history of sun salutations, if that's important to you. Or here's a little article on the top 10 benefits of saluting the sun, so that they're getting supplementary information. So you can do that as this week we're looking at to get them excited, or you could do it as follow-up. Thank you for coming to week 3 of the beginner's course. I really hope you enjoyed learning about Surya Namaskar. Here is a short video of 3 sun salutations. I would love you to have a go at this video before you come to class next week to start practicing yoga at home. So there needs to be some supplementary material, in my opinion, for a course. So it can be really short. Say week 1, you have introduced diaphragmatic belly breathing. I always think of a yoga teacher, if we teach one thing, teach someone how to belly breathe. Okay? Then at the end of that, you send them an email. Thank you so much for coming to your first week of your beginner's course. Today you learned about the full diaphragmatic breath. Here is a 1-minute video where I talk you through this breath. Let's do it together once before I see you next. So there needs to be this information. At the end of a course, customer service is key. You're going to send them a lovely thank you email, or actually I prefer to do it in person on week 6. If it's 6 weeks, do them a little card, my loves. Write them, handwrite them a thank you card. Thank you so much for taking this journey with me. Yoga is something I'm deeply passionate about. I hope you have enjoyed doing it with me. And then in there, add some treats. So that could be a cup of yogi tea, or a tea bag. It could be a pocket tea bag. It could be a printed out discount code for your next offering. Maybe that is a free first class at your continued classes. Maybe it is 10% off your beginners part 2 class. Maybe it's a recommend a friend voucher. If you have other skills, like if you're a Reiki healer or a massage therapist, maybe it is 25% off a treatment with you, but give them a handwritten thank you card and a treat. Okay. And then after that, still follow up on email. Give them, depending on when your next offering is, if your beginners part 2 course is starting the very next week, leave it a couple of days, then send them an email. So lovely to take the course. Just a reminder to book beginners part 2. Or, if there's a couple of weeks break between your courses, or, if you're just going to bring them onto a class, you haven't seen them for 2 weeks, send them an email. Just a reminder, you've got access to a free trial for my class. Would love to see you. Okay. I have rambled and waffled for a lot longer than I intended. So I really hope that there was some value in that for you. Where did we start? Remember, beginners is not about physical skills. It is about familiarity with the subject material. Nobody likes to feel like a fool. Okay? Look inside of your soul. What is it that you are drawn to share? What is it important to you that a beginner to your subject material learns? How long does that course need to be? What does it need to entail to deliver what you are passionate about delivering? And what is important to you? How has yoga changed your life? What do you want to pass on? When you work out the length of course, the time of the classes, and then you calculate the price, don't freak out if it seems like a lot of money. Instead, work out what are the life-changing values of the skills you're teaching them, and is it worth that? And trust me, it will be. Communicate based on the value of the offer, what they're going to learn, how their life is going to be different, what skills they're going to take away. Okay, Katie, I'll answer that in a tip. Then get people moving quickly. Be really aware how long a beginner's been sat on the floor, because that can be uncomfortable. Get them moving. End of week 1, harder than you think. They're going to want to leave feeling like they did something, unless it's a gentle yoga, restorative yoga. But generally speaking, they're going to want to feel like they did something. Then add supplementary information, teach, repeat, add on, treat them at the end. Katie just asked, would you ask people to pay up front for the course or pay a deposit if you're starting a course in September? I would ask people to pay up front. Really good transparency around pricing. Yes, I'm glad you asked this, Katie. There is a set price for your course and people pay that price. There's none of this, oh, but I can only come for 5 weeks of your 6-week course, so I only want to pay for 5 weeks. Have boundaries, my love. It is really important. If it's a 6-week course and they're taking a space at that course, you can't fill it with anybody else. So it is full payment from your course up front. I give free first classes, but that doesn't apply to a course. At the end of a course, I'll give you a free class to get you to continue afterwards. Okay, so really be strong on your boundaries. Stand up for you are doing the best you can to offer them the best course possible, and they need to meet that and respect the work and the time that you are putting into it. Just going to see if there's any other questions. I think it was just about recordings ones I saw. It won't let me go back and look at questions. Okay, I'll dive into questions in the chat afterwards, but thank you. To let you know what's coming up, next week there will not be a live show because they've booked a spa. The week after, I'm doing a special guest interview with Kim Perrypoint on yoga and neurodiversity. She's doing a special study into yoga and ADHD, so let's come and learn about that. Later on in August, we have Andrew McGonigal coming back to do a presentation on language. There's lots of exciting CPDs. I'm just finalizing my CPD schedule. So we have a pop-up in August on the tantric teachings of the chakras, going back to source texts, which is really, really exciting. There's philosophy for yoga teachers coming up. There's yin, there's loads coming up. So keep an eye out for your email. I'll be releasing a whole series of CPDs soon. So thank you, my lovelies. Enjoy your weekend. Any questions, pop them in there because I will, as always, come back and answer them. Much love.